to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we adopt the agenda tonight, I think we should take a minute in remembrance of the 9/11 people that happened, 22 years ago.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none heard. Are you gonna start it or what?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Item 4.8, discussion of the Anoka County Sheriff's Office law enforcement contract. In your packet, there's a chronological summary of how we got to the final offer, or not offer, but the final proposal in the sheriff's budget. We started out in the discussions, there was gonna be a 4.7% increase, which was given to us back in June on the sheriff's contract. Prior to our work meeting in August, about a week before, the Anoka County Board gave the Sheriff's Department sheriff's deputies a $5 an hour raise, plus the bumps and percentage increases will be also effective the first of the year. This kind of shot our budget out of the water and increased our cost significantly for the contract. We had Paul Linsmeyer here at our work meeting to explain the reasoning for the contract. Sheriff Brad Wise was here at our last meeting to go over some things. There were some further questions. Mr. Lewis had some questions that he was trying to get answered regarding proration methodology of cost, which referred basically to the administrative section of it. And it appears that they're not totally based on, or they're essentially based on contracted hours rather than some formula for accounting for population, area served, and type of services requested. So tonight's discussion will be to explore options concerning cost reductions for the Anoka County Sheriff's Office law enforcement contract for 2024 or subsequent years. It is recommended the amount included in the preliminary budget, though, be considered for approval as presented in item 4B, preliminary 2024 budget. The final budget can be decreased should there be any other movements on this matter, and can be adjusted to reflect any reductions prior to as a part of the final budget approval on December the 11th, 2023. Options to consider in the discussion tonight could include, but not be limited to, reduction in contracted hours of service. If this option is considered, it should be weighed heavily against the potential consequences of reduction of public safety services. We could also talk about the exploration of a regional contract that could potentially consolidate and reduce the administrative cost as to individually contracting separate municipal agreements. Or we can develop a new methodology to calculate administrative cost allocations that will factor in costs for service, population, and other factors that may influence this line item, expense, and or other alternatives that are relative to the discussion. So those are just a few things that we can begin to explore. This is something that probably won't be solved over a meeting, but it might be wise to reach out to some of our other localities and maybe meet as a group with the Sheriff's Office to discuss this item and what can be done to reduce cost, if not this year, then for the following years.
Thank you, Jack. And that's a really excellent summary of the proceedings of our discussions with the Sheriff's Office and all that. It's well done. There's one correction in there, and I'll mention it in the minutes. I'm going to be pulling the minutes in the consent agenda. And I don't know how this happens with this transcribing stuff, but it's on In page 4, near the second paragraph, it says, Lewis suggested reducing the number of deputy hours from 36 to 32. And apparently it's corrected here because in my notes I looked at earlier, it was percent. And it's supposed to be hours. And I don't know how they got percent out of the word hours. I mean, I know I'm not the clearest enunciator in the world, but I think I'm a little clearer than that. But anyway, and I've had a number of discussions with the mayor of Ham Lake and one of their city council members, with the mayor of Oak Grove, who himself is the deputy police chief for Champlin. Both very interesting and amiable people, well informed. And so for all of us, we're looking at this, and it's a big swallow, you know, as far as our budget goes. So, as Jack alluded to, the Ham Lake has 38% more population than East Bethel. They have 38%, and they have 35% more calls for service with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office than does East Bethel. And our costs, in both cases, we have 36 hours per day of sworn deputy sheriff service in our cities, both the same, and our costs are identical as far as that portion of the budget. And that begs the question, well, if they have a lot more calls, why do we have the same amount, you know? And also, and I've talked a little bit with the Sheriff's Department, it would make a little more sense. I can understand because it takes a little more work, but it would make a little more sense if the allocations, the prorations by city were based on history of call service. And you could really get the weighting more complicated by the type of call service too. Is it murders, or is it, you know, my dog bit somebody, you know, that kind of thing. But at least to have some weighting, it would make more sense for them to allocate a higher cost for the larger size of East Bethel. It's more wear on the car, it's more mileage, it's more gas, you know, stuff like that. So, but they'll probably get there down the road. I mean, Sheriff Wise is a sharp fellow, and he's got a lot of experience doing this stuff, so it's his first year, but they'll probably develop it as they go. But the long and short of it is, having looked at it a lot, the only way I can see of reducing our cost with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office is a reduction in hours. And a reduction from 36 hours per day to 32 is about 11% reduction in costs. A reduction to 30 hours is about a 17% reduction. And the first is in the $90,000 some range, and the second one is $130 some thousand range. So that's what we're faced with, and this caused me to think up an option, and I don't know how good it is, but at least I threw it out to a couple of people and they thought it might have some merit. And that is to have residents of each city serve as a complement to the sheriff's service, almost like community service officers, only they wouldn't have any legal interaction, you know, try to stop crime or any of that kind of thing, but they would be eyes and ears in the community rolling around it, at least during the power shift, as they call it. And they would be people with a vested interest in the well-being of their town because they live in it, you know, possibly their relatives live in it, as opposed to it just being a paid service, you know. So whatever you call that individual, and they would have background checks, and they would have to have some training by the Sheriff's Department and all that, but it's just a way to augment the Sheriff's Department's services without incurring the considerable cost per hour of sworn deputies. And they would have to be trained as to don't bother us unless it really requires a sworn deputy's services. So it's not something that you just, you know, do next week, but anyway, a couple of mayors think it might have some merit, and so we're going to talk about it some more, and we'll probably have group meetings of, you know, three to five cities, I would say, coming up soon. But short of that, the only other thing is a reduction in hours. And we don't need to do it this year because of that safety, what's the proper term, safety grant or public safety grant?
Public safety grant.
Okay. The city of East Bethel is getting $515,000 plus, and that more than offsets the $130,000 or $40,000 increase in the budget over what we anticipated. So we're okay for this year, so that'll buy us time, but it's a one-time grant as far as we know. It's not gonna be a recurring thing, so it'll buy us some time, and we need to figure out a solution, because either we're overprotected, Ham Lake's underprotected, or we just need to put on our thinking caps and come up with another way to do this and get the same safety result. So, by the way, just as an aside, if it's what's going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul has created this situation, basically. That and then the national defund the police, whatever. It makes sense to me that you should be able to attract people in outlying areas like Isanti County, Sherburne County, Chisago County to work in East Bethel or in Anoka County cities as a higher, higher remuneration. So it just like rolls out. It's like, the pebble in the pond, the ripples go out to bring them in and work for us so we don't have to compete with Blaine. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I've talked more than enough about it, but that's just my thoughts. What do you guys think?
I don't think I would ever go with the shortening of hours. Public safety, fire, and public works are three of the key things that you gotta have. And for the money difference, yeah, it's a lot of money, but right now I couldn't lower hours on protection.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
What do y'all
about
think?
my thoughts too, of any
You
of the
share
things,
that point of view, Brian?
of any of the things that our residents pay for. It, right up in the top three should be public protection, police protection, sheriff's office, emergency services. Those are a lot of times life or death situations. And unfortunately, yes, they cost money, but what's money versus a human life or safety? It's, and with the last report that was given at the last council meeting where some of the crime stats were increasing, whether that's a fluke or if it's gonna continue that way, I just would not agree with reducing the hours.
Okay, thank you. How about you guys?
Well, I like the fact that you worked it out to give us some real numbers, what an 11%, 17% decrease would cost the city. And am I in favor of doing something like that? We have a year to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do. These are the real hard numbers that have been put in front of us.
And we can't expect that we'll continue this trend.
Correct. And as long as cities like Blaine and other places are offering such high salaries, it's gonna be tough, and we're gonna have to make some decisions. And of course, our residents are always gonna be first, but they also have to know the numbers that are involved, and by doing this, it's an eye-opener. It really is. To get what we got for a bill was unexpected. To try and trim it, I mean, it's explained, that's the only option we have, if we were gonna trim it, and it's not a good option for us. That's how I feel.
I think, I appreciate everything you did with them numbers too there, Kevin. But I think that we can trim other areas in the city, just from looking at it, to reduce the cost. And like Tim says, we have a year to figure that out, and glad we do have the time, because I'm sure there's other ways that we can make the difference up, because we can just trim stuff in different areas, my opinion.
All right, well, thank you. By the way, I'm not in favor of cutting hours either. It's just, but something doesn't add up. I mean, that's a funny thing about math, is it either adds up or it doesn't. And with Ham Lake, a bigger city in terms of population, 38% larger population, it makes perfect sense that there's 35% more calls. As Aaron can tell you, who used to do law enforcement related work, right? It tends to track with population, you know? I mean, there's a correlation between the need for services and the population, you know? I'm just wondering if, there might be some better way to approach it, or some way to better manage costs or something. I just have this sense that we're missing something. But my bottom line proposal, not cutting anything now, but is that we should probably meet, the city administrator, and not necessarily the mayor, but a council member should meet with the sheriff's department at least twice a year, if not quarterly, and just have a sit down and kind of do a review. How's it going? And you know, what can we do to more efficiently accomplish the same good result, you know?
Well, another thing that would accomplish too, it would give us a little bit more warning on the increase that was thrown at us
Oh,
a
yeah.
week before we had our budget meeting, so.
That is something that we have all communicated very clearly, and that is that this was not a good job of communication. See, that needs to improve for sure. At least let us know when the tsunami is about to crest on us, you know?
And I understand too, that was probably sprung on them at a later time than they expected.
Oh, yeah,
but,
yeah, I agree.
You know, I think it would behoove us all to sit down and see what we can do to work out some more meetings with the sheriff's department to explore ways that there's cost savings within the contract. Maybe there's a way to reduce some of the overlap in functions in administrative cost if you go to a regional type contract.
Yeah.
You know, we'd still be doing the same thing, but it may be able to way to reduce some of their administrative time.
Yeah, just, and maybe it's a meeting with all the cities at one
Yeah.
time, and the sheriffs, out of respect for their time too, that we all just get together and sit around and, you know, 6 cities, 5 cities,
Yeah.
8 cities, whatever, to say, you know, let's brainstorm and see what we can do to make a difference here. Yeah, okay. Anything more on that particular topic? Well, then, our next item is 4B, adoption of the 2024 preliminary levy and budget. And, oh, it says "and" Anoka County Sheriff's Office contract discussion, okay. Well, let's do that all over again. Yeah, go.
Thank you, Kevin. The 2024 budget was discussed at July 5th, 2023, and August 7th and 14th, 2023, and August 28th city council meetings. Based on discussions from these meetings along with the input from the city department supervisors, the 2024 preliminary budget was prepared for your review and consideration for your approval and is included in tonight's packet. The city has a policy that states that the city will maintain an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of at least 40% of next year's budgeted expenditures. In practice, the city has historically maintained and targeted 50% of next year's budget expenditures to ensure that the general fund has adequate cash flow in order to meet operational needs. The city ended 2022 with a general fund balance of $3,672,546. Given this amount, estimates for the 2023 general fund financial performance and the 2024 preliminary expenditure budgets, it is projected that the city could use $225,000 in fund balance to offset the increase in the 2024 expenditures in order to keep the levy increase at 2% for 2024 and still be over the targeted 50% amount. The 2024 preliminary general fund levy is proposed to increase by $106,500 from $5,144,600 in 2023 to $5,251,100 in 2024. The 2024 preliminary debt service levy is proposed to increase by $18,000 from $945,500 in 2023 to $962,500 in 2024. The proposed EDA and HRA levies are proposed to remain unchanged. Overall, the 2024 general fund expenditure increase, along with the use of the fund balance, will result in a corresponding levy increase of 2% or $123,000 in order to balance the 2024 budget. With that, there will be 4 motions that will be proposed for council. All this money does include the use of those $515,000 public safety funds to offset the Sheriff's Department contract. Motion 1 is staff requests council to consider approval of Resolution 2023-62, setting the final levy and budget date.
Make a motion for approval of Resolution 2023-62, setting the final levy and budget date.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do we have some discussion?
How do we determine the date, I guess, on that? Or is it set already?
The date is December the 11th. It's in the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Just, is the actual amount, using 225,000, is the actual amount of the levy increase 1.6%?
It's actually 2%, yep.
It is 2%?
Yep.
Because on the previous version we had, I thought when we went over it together, I thought it was,
Yeah, there's a couple different versions that have been kind of presented at the last meeting. I think the consensus was to prepare the preliminary at the 2%, and then we have the opportunity to lower it at the final budget meeting in December. So the one in your packet actually shows a 2% increase.
yeah, I saw that. Oh, where in the accounting does the $100,000 administrative fee for the conduit bond show up?
Yep, so essentially what happened with that is we took that in sometime in July, and that just gets rolled right into your fund balance that we can use to offset the increase.
Well, does it go into any particular account other than cash?
It goes into, it's in just a line item that I labeled a conduit bond,
Cash.
100,000. So if you were to look at our financials now, you're gonna see all of your line items, and one's gonna stick out like a kind of a sore thumb at $100,000 in actual activity and no budget. But,
Okay.
and it's just gonna go rolled right into your fund balance as we end 2023.
And if I heard Jack correctly, these numbers are all net of the 515,000+
Yep, so.
public safety grant,
Yep,
right?
so the way that kind of works now is.
And where does that wind up again?
Yep, so the amount
Cash.
actually was certified. Yep, the amount was certified then on September 1st, so that $515,000 should be arriving to the city sometime in December. And that actually is just gonna get kind of put into your fund balance again, but it's gonna be allocated as restricted. So then as soon as we open up 2024, you would allocate that entire amount to your police contract, and that way it would help you build unrestricted funds, right? Because it's kind of a left pocket, right pocket kind of thing.
Yep,
The value
the
is.
fungibility
Yep.
of money, yes.
You don't wanna really, if you can expend.
It's the
all
one
your-
part of economics I actually remember, yeah.
So instead of having restricted funds, you might as well keep them all unrestricted, so you wanna
Yeah.
allocate and use all those dollars up first.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of passing the resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard.
Motion number 2, staff requests council consider approval of Resolution 2023-63, setting the preliminary property tax levy and budget for 2024.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion for approval of Resolution 2023-63, setting the preliminary property tax levy and budget for 2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard.
Motion 3, staff requests council consider approval of Resolution 2023-64, 64, setting the preliminary 2024 EDA levy and budget.
Again, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-64, setting the preliminary 2024 EDA levy and budget.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? None heard.
Motion 4, staff requests council consider approval of resolution 2023-65, setting the preliminary 2024 HRA levy and budget.
Do I need to say it again?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023-65, setting the preliminary 2024 HRA levy and budget.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None heard. Looks like you're gonna get home before midnight, Mike.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for public hearings and presentations.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the public forum. And the only person we have signed up is Mr. Ray Jordan. Would you like to come up and state your name, address, and
I am Ray Jordan. I'm own a couple businesses on Klondike Drive, Ray Jordan and Sons Landscaping, and Blue Ribbon Pines Disc Golf.
okay? Thank you. Go ahead.
What I'm here for tonight is I've made a mistake with the city, and it had to do with a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it was a mistake that I made. We have this Frisbee golf course, and it's doing really well. I've told some of you guys that we've reached number 8 in the world in disc golf activities. And
That's amazing.
it's just based on customer appreciation. They go to an app and they review your course, and it goes into a big database, and it just comes out. And we've been as high as 4, and we're at 8 right now, but it's still really, really neat. All the things that are going on there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've tried to incorporate a lot of other things with the disc golf. We've had music. We've had ultimate Frisbee events combined with disc golf events, trying to attract more people in, trying to just do more things for our place, get more exposure and all these things. And we have quite a few tournaments every year, people coming from all over. We have one tournament a year where we got people from out of the country coming in, people coming from 20 different states to play. Just had a guy visiting from Finland a couple days ago. It's just flattering that someone from Finland is coming to your place to play disc golf. But anyway, we had 4 events going on this year that are reoccurring events that we've had before. And I scanned over the permits to Aaron, and I don't know if I'm all thumbs with it or whatnot, but only one got to Aaron. And I assumed that everything was gonna go, everything was through, and I'm moving forward. And we've had a really, on our landscaping business, we've been in business for 83 years doing landscaping, oldest one in the state. 4 generations, and we're actually selling this year. Just because we're all getting older and our pensions are all mature and we're ready to kind of move on. So you'll be seeing our properties. Well, you won't be seeing them because we don't have any in East Bethel. We're not selling the disc golf, but our sod farms and places. But anyway, with this incredibly dry, hot year, it's been just all we can do. All we do is lay sod and put grass seed down. And all it does is get hotter and hotter, and you know, we have to keep it alive once we lay it because we put it on city streets. And it's just really had all of us, really, I don't even work that much in the landscape business because of my business with the disc golf, but I'm always the fill-in guy. If they need me, I'm the first responder, you know, and I've been responding. Anyway, I just got a little disenjointed this year, and we had an event and didn't even have the permit through. And Kevin and I talked about it, and our events we're doing, we work our ass off to make sure that everything is in compliance with enough bathrooms, enough fire alleys to get in. I mean, we've talked to, because we've done these so many times, we kind of know what we got to do and how to do it and how to have security and how to do all the right things. But the main thing I didn't do is communicate better with Aaron and the city of East Bethel. And I've normally think I've always done that, but I just dropped the ball this year. I thought those applications were in and they never were. So I'm sitting with mud on my face because we're trying to run these events and shit, we don't have permits. It's just horrible. I talked to Jack and Aaron a lot, and I just realized the position I put them in, realized the position put Kevin in, answering phone calls about this stuff.
And Bob, he was with me when we
Yeah.
visited you.
Yeah.
But the main thing, if I could interrupt you, is what we heard was a lot of complaints from residents about the sound level and late, and that was the main thing.
Yeah.
I live at the far southeast corner of East Bethel. I didn't hear a thing at your concert, but we were getting phone calls and all
Right.
that, and that's, otherwise we wouldn't have come over at all. Wouldn't have known.
Angie's this gal that runs our office, does a lot of things. She's really a good gal. She reaches out to every resident that we know of in the area. We talked to Tim Hoffman. He has 4 houses that are in our area. So he's like, I'll get in touch with all of them people, and she does that. So we try our hardest, you know, to do the right thing. Even the one show we had where it was loud, on the second day, we tried to change speakers and tried to have some going face to face and we had guys that are really smart trying to do different things. It wasn't just screw them, we're doing what we're doing. They really tried, but it is that type of music that we had is a different type. It's got a lot of bass.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, and it really,
That's what we were told.
you can feel it. And,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what those kids like.
Yeah.
But we're having an event this weekend called the Nick Rocca Cancer Foundation event. It's a benefit for a family who's got a child with cancer. And we've been going at it. This is our 14th year. We've been almost able to raise $5,000 more a year for the family.
That's great.
So we got $30,000 that we gave away last year. And we got some smart people, and we've turned it into a 501c3. So we have some pretty good sized companies now donating
That's
money.
excellent.
Our biggest donation is $15,000 to, and anyway, it's just got a lot of people working on this thing. And I mean, we work on it for 9 months straight. We take a little break after it's done, but then you got to get right back on it with
Yep.
all the kind of planning and
Just like booster days.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're already starting on the next year.
even just getting out thank yous and,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, to try to do the right thing that way. It
Yep.
just takes a lot of coordination. But, anyway, we were just talking, Jack and Aaron and I, about the bad position that I put East Bethel in.
Hmm.
And I mean, we've been in business forever, landscaping, and we know what to do. I mean, we have to have compliances with our trucks,
Yep.
with MnDOT, with the union. We're a union shop. So, I mean, we're getting audited. I mean, we're been just doing the right thing, or else you're not around.
No?
You know what I mean? If you start cutting corners and all that stuff, and we really haven't. But this year, I've done what I've never done, and it's like, I feel terrible about it. And,
Well, don't. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks it's like malevolent or anything on your
Well,
part. It's just,
I kind of
stuff happens. Stuff happens.
I'm in charge of it, and it all falls on me.
Yeah, I know.
From the event people to everybody.
So-
And it's just like, my own father, if he was alive, would be like, what are you doing? You know, but
well.
anyway,
The main thing is that it has to be equal treatment under the law.
right.
That's all.
So
So if this guy's gotta keep the sound down after 10 or whatever,
No, I
everybody does,
completely-
so that's all.
completely understand.
So we're
And,
not, we're not like, you know,
Right,
complaining about it
yeah.
too much.
Right, right.
But,
The deal we have this year, I mean, that's coming up this weekend, isn't the same as the other ones. It's just
this
rock.
one will be all treble, huh?
It's just, yeah, it's just rock, yeah, it's just treble music.
Yeah.
But it's easy listening rock and roll. It's a free show. Part of the donation that this one company does is to pay for the acts to come in. And now they're bringing 40 of their employees and this and that, and to be a part of it, and they're paying for the entertainment of it. So it takes a lot of burden off us. We really can't get anybody out there, as telling Jack and Aaron, whenever we have rock and roll or country, it's like pulling teeth to get anybody to come out to our shows. Like our record amount is like 200 people, you know, and I just don't know if people, I don't know why. Everyone that comes has a great time, and I'll be back, and you just think it's gonna build, and it never does. This Raka Cancer Foundation, we're gonna have a disc golf tournament where everyone's donating to play, and we're making it bigger and bigger and bigger, and we got 180 people that are showing up to play disc golf.
Well, it's a great cause, Ray,
But
and,
they leave.
and we
They-
all wish
yeah.
you an excellent event. We really do.
But the reason I'm here is when we were talking, one of the considerations would be to have the music turned off at 10. And I would just really hope that we could reconsider and have it to midnight because of everything that's already in motion.
What happened to the headphone system that you told us about when we were out there that night?
That's
with
I was telling these guys, when we have the kids out there with the bass music, 12 o'clock, they're just warming up. You know what I mean? They're not going to
Yeah, but
bed.
I mean,
They're-
you could switch from
So,
speakers to
What we do is
headphones.
we do silent disco,
Yeah, there you go.
and it's a name that they put headphones on, and the sound that comes from the stage is silent. It goes to the headphones. And so there's actually 2 performers playing at midnight with lights going in the woods, and all sound goes to these headphones. So we do that from midnight till 2 in the morning. So everyone that's at the show, because
Why can't you do that for this event?
that is a huge coordination with the sound. And this EDM thing is where we do it, and it's all this computer-generated stuff.
Oh.
And it's a real
And
intellectual.
this show's not set up to do that?
No, this is just set the speakers up, plug them in, and let these band guys go at it. It's not that it's a horrible show or we're not taking it seriously that way, but it's not we don't have the same capability to do anything like that. And just with people coming from all over the place for this thing, would hope that, I mean, I'd be willing to make a concession anywhere else. But I mean, with the way this is going, and it's our 14th year, and we're just literally trying to just keep building and building. Our last meeting is tomorrow night. And I've been just sick to my stomach thinking about what I'm gonna tell these people.
But even if all the permits had been, that you scanned, showed up in Aaron's desk and all that stuff, the law is still 10 PM.
No.
It still would have been 10 PM.
No, it is. It says right on the permit, it's 12.
10 PM is what I've been told, is
12:30.
that sound has to go down.
No,
after-
we're not asking for anything that's not on the permit. It says till 12:30 on the outdoor permit for weekends, not weekdays.
Really?
And if
Because
it's
I've always heard 10 PM.
That's on the noise ordinance.
Yeah. Well, doesn't this relate to the noise ordinance?
no, we've done it till 12 every year that we've ever done it.
So outdoor entertainment permits allow for the function to happen until midnight. So let's say you could continue to operate at a noise level that's below the standard and not create a noise violation. You could hand out raffle items, call basket winners, continue to do alcohol sales, continue to meet and greet with people.
Yeah,
But
the
noise
the
ordinance has to-
issue was the noise. That
ordinance.
was the
Yeah,
noise.
Correct.
it's the sound.
So the outdoor entertainment permit also has a stipulation that says you must follow the noise ordinance.
Oh, so it
But
is,
but the event can go until midnight.
sure,
It
yeah.
just
well, I
can't
don't-
violate the noise ordinance.
I don't think we care if the event can
Our
continue.
event, that other event goes till three in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're quiet and nobody.
Right.
But I mean, every permit that I've ever come in here for has always been 12 o'clock. We have it on our permit that says we're going to 12 o'clock every single year.
I don't know if
Every year
all
we've
the
ever done it.
properties within earshot of your event all changed hands to people who go to bed at 10 o'clock or something, but we got a lot of calls about it, and so did the sheriff's department.
I don't think we have for this event that we're having coming up.
No, but I'm talking about
No, but in the
last
past.
event. Yeah, I'm
In
talking
the
about the
past.
last event. Yeah.
I know this last one we had calls, but,
So what do you, I mean, Aaron just told you the noise ordinance is,
10.
again, just repeat, 10 o'clock, right?
That's correct.
And the
It-
volume has to go down. If the
it-
volume can go down, then it'd be all right, right?
If I can ask a question,
Yeah.
Jack, for when the fire department had their fireman's dance at Booster Days, in my recollection, the fireworks were usually set off about 10 o'clock around dusk, and the band still played until, I don't think I ever closed it down, but they probably played till 11 or 12 then.
I think it was 12.
Yeah, that would be correct.
And that's a municipal event, not a private one, too.
That's correct too.
So, what do you want us to do? Just talk to each other about what we want to do, or whatever? How do you want to handle it? I know what you want, a big yes.
No, right, no, that would be, no, I'm nervous enough being up here. That would be completely up to you guys. How you do what you do is fine. But honestly, this is our 14th year of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we get that, but again,
But no, but
again,
every
it's
year.
about the neighbors who are
But every
disturbed by
year
the
it's
music,
been
that's
12.
all.
And everything we've ever done is set up for 12, and I didn't realize that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, now you got the,
no, but I'm like.
no offense, but from the horse's mouth,
Right.
you got it, and it's 10 o'clock for the noise ordinance.
And is that outdoor permit here?
I have a copy of it.
Because I sent a copy of just the stipulation on it that says, but like you say, now if you stipulate that it's the event can go till that late instead of the music, but it was specifically talking about amplified music,
Switch you over.
and
And
that part of
it could be, just cut the volume in half, and it would probably eliminate all the noise
So let
problems.
me just see, I mean,
But,
I hate
you know,
to sit here in front
But
of you.
our track record on the one event didn't work out too well.
Right, no, I realized that.
So, Jack and Aaron, another question. Some of the bars have had tent parties. They've had bands. Would that fall under a similar permitting as Mr. Jordan's?
The way the permit reads, that's correct.
And what time does the band stop playing at those?
I really couldn't tell you, Brian.
Well,
I-
Well,
30.
more
I usually go
importantly,
to
where
bed
were
about
they? That would be
Outside-
the operative, huh?
Outside Route 65,
Route six.
Fat Boys used to do it. Moonshine Whiskey,
You could bring this up.
I don't know if they've had any or not.
I don't know.
Most of them have been with Route 65. A lot of theirs has been recently though, here in the daytime. A couple of years ago, they did have one that I think went later on into the night. What time it finished, I don't know.
What if it goes on with the understanding that if there's problems or complaints, then it gets shut down?
Well, you've
Yeah,
already,
if the
you've already
deputies show
talked to the
up-
sheriff's department
If
about
the
that very.
deputies show up, say something, he's gotta be the person to
Yeah.
talk to them.
Right.
And what we've talked to about the sheriff's department, I think they came out last time and
Three
they weren't-
times is what
they
I was
weren't real
told.
sure what they could do as far as enforcement, but we've clarified that with them. It can be proposed to address being on a public nuisance level or disturbance of the peace, rather than have to follow the noise ordinance standards, because those are the ones that are difficult to do, because you have to use a decibel meter and meter the noise level for an hour. They
Right.
do have a decibel meter that they would have for this event. So if the council wishes to change that portion of the application and the permit, even for this, then I would suggest that you just add that as an agenda item to follow this discussion. You can discuss it and then you can make whatever amendments you'd like.
Well, I kinda made my thoughts known, I mean, as long as, again, maybe there won't be any complaints, because
Yeah.
that bass music does travel.
Well, it's a very simple solution, is to turn, it doesn't have to be silent.
Or
It just
turn
can't
up
be
the-
150 decibels, that's all, it's not very complicated. It's just turn it down
Yeah,
to where,
This
you know.
isn't really, loud, the loudness isn't older crowd, you know what I mean, easy listening rock and roll music. It isn't like
understand.
what we do with the other event,
Yeah,
but,
and we're just speaking, again, I don't have a dog, Bob lives down the street from me, we're not gonna hear any of it.
right,
We're concerned about the residents who do live in
Right.
the immediate area.
right. And like I said, we have talked to everybody in the area. There was a lady that sent us some Facebook complaints. I think she's talked to the city and stuff like that. And, we reached out to
Well,
her.
here's a simple, I'll throw it out, I don't know if it's good or not. But if the Anoka County Sheriff's Department gets calls about the noise and they show up, whatever level you're at, you gotta reduce it.
Right.
I mean, that's, again, I'm trying to do a practical thing
No,
here as
I-
opposed to
I'm-
some, you know,
I'm fine with
complicated
that.
deal.
What
But-
staff's, you guys been over there talking, what
Yeah,
are you throwing back and forth?
No, I was just telling Aaron that I'd had a discussion, I wasn't able to get up with him this afternoon, with Christina and Eric, and I talked about this. And if the council wishes to change it, again, what we should do is hear Mr. Jordan out, then make a motion to add this to the agenda. We can discuss it, and then the council can make a decision on any direction.
this agenda tonight?
Yes,
Oh, so there's no public notice or anything like that
no,
required?
no.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right, well, let's do that then.
Do we have to add it as an agenda item, or can we just make a decision?
I would add it as an
Tier-
agenda
Yes.
item to conclude the public forum and then discuss it here and come up with some type of compromise or what the council wants to do with this matter.
Did you say that the Anoka County Sheriff's will have a decimeter, whatever the term is?
That's what they told us.
Okay. I don't know, what is the term? I don't know.
Decibel meter.
Decibel meter?
I don't know. I know what it is, but I don't
Yeah,
really know
yeah.
what they would call it or any of that stuff.
Okay, well, we got your message and we'll add it to our agenda, we'll discuss it and, We want you to have your event. The cause is a good cause. We just want everybody to respect each other in the community, that's all.
Right,
Yeah.
and we're trying as hard as we can.
Yeah. Well,
Besides my ineptitude about being more upfront with,
well, this
the
is hands-on, you're on site, big knob,
yeah.
just reduce it 25,
It's not quite like that,
50%.
but we'll get it down.
Well, you
I
know
mean,
what,
one
you know
way
what
or
I mean.
another.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean.
You're in charge, it's your property.
Yes, that is true.
If they say, no, we gotta play it
No,
loud,
no,
you say,
no,
no.
it won't be like that.
Yeah.
It won't be like that.
You're the boss, so.
No, we know.
Buck stops with Ray.
We know these musicians. We've had the musicians out there before, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Once upon a time, I was a musician, so they like it louder generally, so that's the way,
In general.
that's the way it is.
So does Ray have to leave while we do this?
No,
or he can
no,
just-
he's more than welcome to stay, and
All right.
all we need is a motion to add this topic to the agenda for discussion and discuss it, and then council can take whatever appropriate action they deem necessary.
Well, I move to add it to the agenda, item F.
You might want to close the public hearing and
There's no public.
move on to business.
Oh, or public forum.
And move on to business if you're done with that.
Okay, well, thank you, and with that, we'll close the public forum. So we're back in regular order here.
There we go.
So now, Bob, you can make your motion.
I move to add item F, Ray Jordan, disc golf, what other
Blue
name
Ribbon
are you?
Pines, disc golf on,
To, yeah, to make an adjustment on the
please
permit.
have a seat, be comfortable.
Item F under which area?
Well, I'm looking at E is the purchase of a plow.
It'd be
You make it
item I.
E1? Or
I on the
It'd be
consent
Sure.
agenda.
Item I on the consent agenda.
Sure. Item I amend that.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded regarding the upcoming Blue Ribbon Pines event. All those in favor?
Aye.
Adding it? Aye. Opposed? None heard.
All right, Mr. Jordan, don't let us down, okay? We'll hear about it.
So when it comes to the consent agenda, if you want to discuss that, then you'll
Yep.
need to pull it. If not, you can approve it as to his extension request.
Okay.
Oops.
All right, so if I recall the proper procedure, it's to have a motion to approve the consent agenda,
I'll make-
seconded.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'd like to pull item I as an igloo or ice.
Okay. I'm gonna pull item B and E, F, and G.
I want to pull H.
What's left?
Okay, the nothing that's left. No.
Is there been a second to that motion?
No.
Second it.
So we got a motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as amended. And correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like we'll be voting to approve item A, item C, item D,
And that's it.
and that's it. A, C, and D on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Okay, I guess I'm first. It's item B, the minutes from the August 28th meeting. Let's see. A question. Did we find out from Stacy Kvilve, or Kilve, is it?
Kilbang.
Kilve, of Ehlers, how much had to be repaid, the TIF money on the 13 parcels we decertified?
We have not.
We have not. Okay. And as I previously mentioned, the correction on page 131, line 12, quote, Lewis asked if the city should look at the total number of hours and dial it back to 32 or 30%, unquote. It should be 32 or 30 hours. So whoever's listening to this, if you can fix the August 28th, 23 minutes. And that's all I have for that point, so I'll move that we approve item B.
I had one thing too that I talked
Oh.
to Jack
Yeah.
earlier,
Okay,
and I took a picture of it. It's just on a name change. He's gonna take care of that, so I'm fine with it. He's got what I needed.
okay, so I've moved that we approve the minutes as,
Second.
as amended or whatever for
And
the 28th.
I'm not gonna pull it and go through it, but I gave Jack a couple corrections he said he'd make.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. I guess I'm up again. And that's the purchase of the single axle snow plow. Is that the MAC unit?
Yes.
Uh,
Correct. The one that we're recommending is the quote for the MAC that's in the, with the packet.
That's the MAC
Correct.
Granite 42 FRSA.
Correct.
See, I paid close attention to this.
Yes.
Nate, this is Nate Ashford, our Public Works Director. Okay, that's the only question I have. I read with interest all the documentation you provided, so sounds like a smart choice. An expensive choice, but a smart choice. So, thank you. With that, I'll move that we approve item E on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Okay, I'm up again. Pulled item F and G. That's the pay estimate number 1 for the 2023 street improvement project. And the second is the pay estimate number 1 for the 183rd Avenue surface reconstruction. I'm going to ask for a clarification on F, which is the street improvement project. Not on G. I changed. I shouldn't have brought up G. I'm sorry. I reread it and I figured it out. So if you could give me a little clarification on item F, the 2023 street improvement project.
Let me take it.
Yeah.
This is the reconstruction of 183rd Avenue from Greenbrook Drive down to Lakeview Point. So this is their first bill that they've submitted that includes most of the dirt work, the geogrid, and the culverts.
So are these both the same thing?
These are two different projects.
Oh, okay.
F
It
and
was
G.
the street improvement project because it wasn't specific.
Yeah, I think
The
that we-
183rd, I understood.
Yeah, I think he had that, the 2023 street improvement project, it was our overlays that we do annually.
Oh,
That
okay.
was two neighborhoods that were repaved that are.
So it's assorted locations.
Correct.
Be a long list if you.
There's two in item G, there's two neighborhoods that were done, and that pretty much wraps up most of that project. The
Okay.
item F is only about halfway through, they just completed paving on it today, so there'll be another bill coming in for that project.
Okay, well, that makes perfect sense. With that, I'll move that we approve items F and G of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed and none heard. Thank you, Nate. And Mr. Smith pulled the capstone traffic study request. Item H.
I got a question, page 157 on the traffic study. On B, first of all, I think that should be Sand Hill Crane, shouldn't it, instead of Davenport?
Yes.
Okay.
It used to be Davenport.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I just, that. And then also what I got is, shouldn't the 187th lane be included in that also?
It will be, again, that's just their examples, and the write-up says those may or may not be included in the final items for deliverables for the study.
So how are we gonna know what they're gonna do? They're just,
What we're gonna do is the city engineer will contact contact firms that do this, and they will send us a proposal for what they're gonna do. We'll review the proposal
Okay.
before we award a contract.
Okay.
Then we'll know exactly what they're gonna do.
Okay,
So this takes Capstone out of the picture, removes them, and an independent contractor
okay.
will perform the study. They'll have no real input into it.
If I understand it right, then Capstone pays for this?
That's correct.
So then in one section it says how much money, well, I'm asking how much money will be escrowed for this, or we don't know that
We
yet?
don't know until we get the estimate for the study.
Okay,
And
so
that's what
once
we're,
that's
that's what we
determined, then-
require for the escrow.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Wait, excuse me, I wanna just add it for the record that, as Jim said, it should include 187th Street. Should also include Brook, it mentions it, but it would be both north and south, the traffic flows as far as developing their traffic model. Of course, Briarwood Lane. And most importantly, that was left off the other one, the Elevage one, was Crosstown, east and west. Because that traffic is gonna bleed out the back way out down onto Crosstown and go both directions. And one other element, Elevage. There has to be some recognition that at least a quarter or whatever Elevage is gonna be in place when this happens. And they've gotta take account of that traffic too, otherwise it's not a real study.
That's good.
I warned everybody that I would be paying real close attention to this and make as much of a pain in the neck of myself as I could. But I just want to see a good traffic study, because I thought the one for Elevage was really wanting. I really did.
That's a good point, Kevin.
We'll make sure those points are identified and will be included in the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Before I cut him off, Jim made a motion
To approve H.
to approve H.
That was pretty.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None heard. And that brings us up to Blue Ribbon Pines pending event.
I pulled it. I would make a recommendation that we allow the event to go until midnight, with the caveat that if complaints are had and the sheriff comes out, that they make adjustments, and depending on the nature of the complaints, we may have discussions in the future with allowing events to go until midnight. But I think that we should, in this one instance,
Okay?
let it be done.
I'll second that.
I'm trying to think about how to say it. As part of your caveat about if there's a noise complaints, you turn the volume down.
Mhm.
But also that if the sheriff's department makes contact and complaints continue, that they feel free to shut it down too. In other words, it's gotta be some teeth to it, otherwise you're just wasting the sheriff's time, and the residents are just as torqued off as they were when they called, you know? So, but subject to that, I would
Yeah,
be
that's
in,
fine.
I would be in favor of it too.
That's fine. We can.
Can you
the
live with
city
that,
c-
Mr. Jordan? Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
So I actually had it in the phrase of I recommend, but I'll rephrase it as I'll make a motion to.
Second.
Oh, okay. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Thank you, Ray. Have a great event. It's a good cause. I hope it's real successful. I just lost a friend of mine, my best friend, to cancer about 5 days ago. So anything that puts an end to that scourge, I'm all in favor of. So, we're done with the consent agenda. New business? Thank you, Nate.
You don't have to hang on.
Just basking in the glow of the city council.
I like it to hear it out and learn little things about, everything.
Huh?
And hating construction, I'm like, when do we get paid? How's this going? And when you guys are talking about that, I was listening like, okay, this is how it goes.
Yeah, I live within a quarter mile of Lino Lakes Landscaping, or, the Hools.
Yeah, we're very
Yeah.
similar companies.
Yeah, and I know that it's been a tough year for all of you guys. Growing it, keeping it alive, the whole bit. It's been a nightmare.
It's 3 years of drought.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I live on Coon Lake. I can practically walk to the other side,
I know, it's sad.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. Very tough. Is there any new business? Department reports?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Item 8A1 is the ordinance amendment discussion on storage containers. As you know, Councilman Miller proposed amendments to the city ordinance for section 10-1 accessory storage containers. Planning Commission reviewed the amendment proposal at its August 22nd, 2023 meeting, which we brought the conclusion and their recommendation to the City Council meeting on August 28th. After the public hearing was held and further discussion, staff was directed to work with Councilman Miller to modify the proposed amendment to incorporate some items proposed by the Planning Commission, as well as staff recommendations and council discussion. After a conversation with Councilman Miller this morning, we're still ironing out some extra details to the ordinance potential revision that will be brought back in its final form to you on the 25th for potential approval.
That being said, I make a motion to table it.
Second.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
Motion's made to table this matter for the time being. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard.
All right, item 8A2. This item is for discussion only, and I would like some council direction on how to advise the applicant. In 2012, B&T Trucking, an over-the-road truck company that has been in business for over 20 years, purchased 1311 229th Avenue Northeast and relocated a truck motor freight terminal to the city of East Bethel. The property is located in a light industrial district, and according to Section 48(6)A, trucking and motor freight terminals are prohibited uses in the city of East Bethel, as well as a light industrial district. B&T Trucking in 2021 was required to obtain an interim use permit as they were a legal non-conforming use to ensure their compliance was allowed as continued use within the city. Property owners have recently approached the city inquiring about building an additional 50 by 60 storage building to their property. An existing slab with foundation is on site immediately west of their existing building on the property. Although an IUP under Resolution 2021-28 was granted on May 10th of 2021, the use of the property still remains a legal non-conforming. Expansion of the legal non-conforming use have been approved by expansions of legal non-conforming uses have been approved by previous councils, albeit under differing permissions, like existing conditional use permits or previously approved plats with prior to the zoning change. According to Section 5 of the East Bethel City Code under nonconformities, it is the intent of this section to regulate such nonconforming situations to accomplish the following. Recognize that the existence of uses and structures which were lawful when established but no longer meet ordinance requirements. To discourage enlargement, expansion, intensification, or extension of any non-conforming use or structure, to discourage any increase in the impact of the non-conforming use or structure on adjacent properties. Only in exceptional cases of any expansion or intensification of non-conforming use will be permitted and only after approval of the council. And is also attempting to accomplish encouraging the elimination of non-conforming uses of structures or reduce their impact on adjacent properties. According to section 5.2 subdivision A, a non-conforming use may be continued through repair, replacement, restoration, maintenance, or improvement, but not expansion. Sometimes a landowner seeks a variance to allow the use of their property that is not permissible under the existing zoning ordinance. Such variances are often termed as use variance as opposed to area variances from dimensional standards. Use variances are not generally allowed in Minnesota. State law prohibits a city from permitting by variance a use that is not permitted under an ordinance for the zoning district where the property is located. According to Minnesota statute, appeals and adjustments, the Board of Appeals and Adjustments or the governing body, as the case may be, may not permit a variance not permit as a variance any use that is not allowed under the zoning ordinance for the property in the zone where the affected person's land is located. Staff is seeking direction to provide the property owners a recommendation as to the expansion of the truck motor freight terminal. If the city council gives a positive recommendation on moving forward, city staff will work with the property owners to begin a process of potential formal approval. I have provided some aerial photos of the site. As you can see, the slab that I would described is right here next to the building. This is the extent of the addition they want to put on the building.
Do you have any
on the
idea
site.
what the intended use of the building would be?
They plan on storing semi-tractors. So they were permitted.
Storing semi-tractors.
Yeah, the tractor, the cab, the.
Well, I know what a tractor is.
They want to
just
put that
park
in.
them outside. You don't need a building to put them in.
Again, this is their request to do that. Their interim use permit, if I'm not mistaken, gave them 15, the right to have no more than 15 trucks or
Oh.
trailers on the
Well,
property at
now
any
it
given
makes
time.
sense to put them in out of
So,
sight. Yeah.
But also the intended use was to remain neat, orderly, and trucks and trailers shall be screened from the public right of way. So this may help accomplish that item as well, should this be allowed.
So they have an existing slab, an existing foundation.
Which was there when they purchased the property.
So a building was there.
I think the intent to put the building was there. I don't think it was ever built,
Okay,
according to the property owner, the current owner.
okay, because oh,
Any idea what the
I'm-
previous use of that property was? Brian, you?
before B&T purchased it, it was owned by a tire recycling manufacturer.
Oh.
And so they had lots of trailers that had shredded tires and old tires.
Wow.
And since moving, they moved north to Isanti, where the site of the old charcoal plant is, just north of I think it's Buck's Toys in the self-storage. They purchased a parcel on the east side of 65 and have considerably expanded from there. So what was there before, I'm not sure. That goes before my memory, but I believe it's always been some sort of trucking related outfit.
Is their business what's termed a cross-dock facility? Cross-dock is where you break bulk freight, truck freight. You come in on one side, and you have truck trailers on the other side, and you basically rearrange the freight from this bunch of trucks into that bunch of trucks for delivery out to the
My understanding is
local
this is
market.
just the place where drivers pick up and drop off their trucks after completing
They don't
load
handle
transfers. They
actual
don't handle
freight
any
there?
freight here. This is just
Oh, okay.
trucks,
Then it's-
empty truck storage.
Yeah, then it's not
Yeah,
across the,
where that white roof is right now, that is open basically on one side where they have tractors
Open to
come
the
in
elements.
and they're working on them.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
They have them sitting in there.
okay, great.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong there, that is a wall on both sides there, on the back side and on the east side? So the north and east side, that is a pretty high fence right there already, basically.
Yeah, their whole property is actually fenced very nicely. You can barely
Right.
tell that it's a trucking, there's anything
They've-
parked there when you drive by.
They've
We've-
done
we've
a
not had
good
any-
job.
We've not had any complaints that I'm aware of. When they came in for their IUP, it mentioned that they were an existing business for 8 years and there were no complaints noted prior to that, and that was in '21. We haven't had any complaints in the time that I've been here, so that means at least 9 years of operation without any complaints. So
Okay,
they do
that
a really
an-
good job of taking care of themselves.
They've been really good. I was
Okay.
on the planning at that time when they came in to get their IUP renewed, and every time I went out there, it was just, everything's in order.
Yeah.
It doesn't look lousy at all. They keep everything good.
Do we know anything about the, traffic problems at that particular intersection with trucks entering or exiting 65, for example?
I don't know
No-
any of those.
Nothing pops up.
There's
Jack
been-
knows everything,
there-
so we'll ask him.
There's been no reported issues of any traffic problems with trucks or with volume at that intersection. So, again, back to Brian's thing, that was a tire recycle business started back in the 90s.
Didn't that
90s.
burn?
What?
Didn't that burn up?
I don't think
Back
so,
in
but
the
they did,
80s?
when they moved to Isani, they did have a fire up there, though.
Yeah.
It was a spontaneous
Well, you could see
combustion
that fire for a long way.
Yeah. And, but, they were out of compliance with their IUP, CUP, whatever it was, and the city worked for about 6 years with them, and they finally just moved out, so.
Well, what do we, I mean, the law, state statutes and zoning laws are pretty clear about not wanting to do this.
Well-
But on the other hand, if we want to be pro-business as
It-
much as possible, how do we work it, you know?
That's why I was asking the question, the existing slab and foundation, if there was an existing building there, because, reading this here says according to section 05-2A, a non-conforming use may be continued through repair, replacement, restoration, maintenance, or improvement. So if there had been a portion there, would that fall under any of those
Yeah, that's what I'm.
items, repair, replacement, restoration?
Because it says specifically, but not expansion.
This is why,
I mean,
this is
that's-
why the item is in front of you guys
Yeah,
that get
yeah.
to make the decision, because my definition of intensification, expansion, improvement might be different than you, and if, our ordinance says one thing and I interpret it one way, but you guys interpret it another, and this, I give him a no for an answer, and he comes to appeal, and you guys give him the permissions,
Yeah,
we're trying to.
Don't listen to
Well, it's
Aaron.
not
He
really
doesn't
an
know.
expansion,
We're
he's
trying-
replacing what was there, right?
Oh, what?
It's not an expansion of their building, they put it's a whole different building that may have been there. That was
Well, it's an,
burned,
yeah, that's-
destroyed.
it's an expansion of
Yeah,
the
we also,
fixtures on the real estate.
we may want our city attorney's advice on, this
Sure,
as
you
well.
wasted your time coming here tonight, might as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So in legal nonconformities, there is a discontinuance law. So even if there was a building there at some point, that legal nonconforming right was discontinued after a year. So the proper way to allow them to move forward with this expansion would be a variance. And that's just a process where they make application, it's reviewed typically planning commission level, and then it would come before you to approve a variance to allow them to expand that use.
But am I misreading this? Because it looks like it's specifically, the state law anyway says you cannot get around this by granting a variance. I mean, that's kind of how I'm reading it. Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Mr. Mayor, I did discuss this with Attorney Larson, and he has reviewed the laws and the specific facts, and he feels that there is discretion to allow the council to allow this to move forward if you would like to.
And that's a better approach than just expanding or reissuing an IUP?
Yes.
Okay.
And to be clear, they're not asking for an expansion of the number of trucks. They're just simply looking to put up this shelter, this building. They're not asking for an IUP amendment at all. They just simply came in and said, hey, we would like to add this shop, and I went, in my opinion, that's an expansion.
And,
Yeah, that's the way I read it too.
and if, with the big if, we would allow it, would that set any precedents for any other legal nonconformings?
Mayor, members of the council, when it comes to variances, it's very property and use specific. So if you had another very specific situation just like this, then there might be some sort of argument they would raise, but I do not believe that argument would be successful. And again, it would really be super narrow, but there's a lot of discretion when it comes to granting of variances for things like this.
Okay, it's a good question, Brian.
Well, I guess my feelings, it's a good business. They've I shouldn't disparage the business that was in there before, but it's been a 9-day difference from what was in there.
So they're a
They-
good corporate citizen.
They're good corporate citizen. They clean up the property. They've kept it proper. Apart from looking at the satellite images, you probably wouldn't even notice that they're a trucking business. And besides their sign that they have out front. And with this being a IUP that is unique to just their business, and as opposed to a CUP that would run with the property, we have control that if we did allow this, it's not allowing for future issues with the same type of business. If another business wanted to come in, if they ever sold, it would be their own defining.
Yep.
They'd have to come in and apply for their own, under their own merits. So I don't believe that it would be allowing a trucking business to be there forever. But it would be an improvement to their business. It would be an improvement to their screening and storage options. And I think, in my opinion, it would be a safe move and a proper move to allow them to continue with applying for a variance. That's just my feelings.
As a result of the answers I got from Aaron about the questions I had, I feel the same way.
I believe it's a good business. We've had no issues with them at all. So I would definitely be for the variance.
I agree.
So somebody want to formulate it as a motion?
We don't need a motion. I
Just be a
need-
resolution? or-
We'll move forward with the approval process from
Yep.
here. I just wanted to know if
Okay.
there was support
You
for
got
that.
you got the sense of the council?
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, we want to be pro existing businesses and new good businesses too. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there is another reason I'm here tonight. I actually am the person at Eckberg Lammers who's worked on the cannabis issues for all of our cities, so it was good timing for me to be able to fill in for Attorney Larson tonight. At your last meeting, you gave some direction to have some consistency added within your ordinance to add intoxicating cannabinoid beverages to the prohibition with intoxicating liquor beverages into your ordinance, and that is what's before you tonight. You can, of course,
is it,
choose not to.
excuse me for interrupting,
Yep.
is it only beverages
Mhm.
with cannabinoid on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So before you tonight is just the intoxicating cannabinoid beverages. If you would like to add on smoking, there's been a really big variance across the state of whether there's any prohibition at all. Smoking, drinking, most have chosen to add on to their beverages, so that action is very consistent across the state thus far. But again, it's before you tonight for your consideration, but it's entirely up to you whether you'd like to adopt it as presented, table it for further discussion, or direct us to add some sort of smoking ordinance of cannabis and hemp products as well.
I believe we did discuss a little something with Mr. Larson about smoking in public places, as far as public places being city properties,
Sure.
city parks, would that be a part of this, or where would that go?
That would probably, what I've seen in most cities, they add that to their environmental portion of their ordinances. So it wouldn't go in, this is in your chapter that's specific to alcohol. So the regulation of smoking of cannabis and similar products would probably belong somewhere else in your ordinance, but it'd be pretty easily slipped into. We have a lot of samples out there at this point in time of ways to regulate that and the scope of whether it's public property, streets, sidewalks, parks, specific to, places where there's youth-oriented facilities. So there's a lot of discretion in scope that you're able to work with when it comes to regulation of both smoking and drinking.
Okay, so there will be more codes.
So there wasn't
Forthcoming.
clarity on whether you were ready to proceed with the smoking ordinance at this time. So if you are ready, we can get that drafted up and have it ready for you pretty quick.
Would there be any other areas to this? As far as the locations? I'm asking these questions, trying to think how to take all this on, whether we want to approve each section as it comes, or each ordinance as it comes in front of us, or give tentative approval as we discuss each one, and then once we have it all laid out, we can read the book
Sure.
as its chapters to make sure everything aligns, and then approve everything at once.
Mayor, members of the council, what I've seen is most cities who have more extensive adoption of regulations of uses do adopt them at the same time, but they are in different sections. So it wouldn't be, it would make sense if you'd like to just move forward with alcohol for now and then next time move on to smoking. But you could also have the option of adopting them on the same evening. They would be separate ordinances and they would belong in separate portions of your code, but that's entirely up to you. As far as scope options, some cities have considered having it to be as extensive as possible, and they've identified it as public places, which includes places that are open to the public, but that are private property. And what that allows is the private property owner can say, no, I want to allow this on my property, and the city can't do anything about that. But some property owners don't want to allow it on their property, and that would allow the sheriff's department to issue like a ticket for using cannabis products on this private property owner's property if they would want that. So it allows the private businesses to decide whether they want to make it legal or illegal on their private property, but having that expansive option has been something that cities have proceeded with in order to allow the law enforcement to enforce what the business owner desires for example, their parking lots and their patios. Other cities have limited it to the public park. Others have even limited it to the scope of where there's a pavilion. So there's a lot of options that you have going on, what type of parks and recreation facilities you have to limit the use of such products more broadly or very specific.
Excuse me, is it proper to be discussing this without a motion in a second? I mean, we're discussing this ordinance, correct? Don't we have to bring it to the table?
It would be best to have a motion and a second and then have the discussion.
Well, the recommendation here is council is requested to discuss the proposed amendment and provide direction to staff. So we don't have.
Just to piggyback on, you weren't here, but at the previous meeting, Mr. Smith brought up the question of, and we had the vote on the moratorium, which you heard about, is, I'm familiar with, I've heard that people smoke cannabis, and I've heard that people eat brownies with it in them. I imagine that extends to cookies. I never heard of anybody drinking it. That's a new one on me. I suppose there's other ways to ingest it too. What we don't want to do is spend $80,000 coming up with continuous legal,
Of course.
work products to just, reduce this to every possible way you could possibly handle pot, or every possible place you could use it, or,
Sure.
It's like, can we have something more comprehensive that covers all the different types and all the different places, like in one deal? And maybe we're back to the moratorium after all, I don't know, but I don't know. But I can just see this being death by 1,000 cuts, and it's, we want to avoid that.
Of course,
if at
yes,
all
Mr. Mayor,
possible.
members of the council, Attorney Larson wanted to make me aware, to be very specific, to convey to you that we kept it very limited in scope so that we would await your direct direction on what you would like for smoking, so as not to incur additional legal fees before you had that. So we kept it very limited, and should you want to add on to your ordinances, it would be whatever you direct tonight, it will be ready for you next time, so that you're not having to direct us to come back and forth with an ordinance, and there would not be additional time incurred on any types of additional reporting.
Well, I'm a little confused here because after the last meeting, I wasn't under the impression that we were even gonna go down this road with the liquid.
I didn't hear, like I said, the whole liquid thing was new to me when I read it in the packet.
And my second question is, so what you're saying is it's legal now to drink this in East Bethel? And you wanna create an ordinance that says, well, you can't do that anymore? Is that what,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you currently have an ordinance that says you can't have intoxicating liquors at certain places. And this is essentially another intoxicating beverage. So what this does is provide consistency that when you go to the liquor store, you can't skirt the ordinance on getting intoxicated off beverages in these public places by picking the THC beverage off the shelf instead of the beer beverage off the shelf.
Is it your expectation that it will be liquor stores who sell the liquid
That's what
form
we're
of it?
seeing right now,
Okay.
primarily.
And it'll be tobacco stores that sell the smoking version of it?
Mhm.
Who's gonna handle the brownies?
Probably the smoke
What if-
shops. We're gonna see a lot of dispensaries.
Holiday and
You can have a municipal
quick
dispensary where you
stuff
sell
and-
your own brownies. All these options are available to you.
Wait a minute, on second thought, I need to find out more about these cookies here.
Just for clarification, Councilman DeRoche, the moratorium was on sale,
Yes.
sales of.
right, I understood
Cannabis.
that.
This is about consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference between 2 weeks ago and tonight.
So like I say, we're taking something that now is legal and you're gonna say, no, now you can't do it.
Well, you can't do it here, you can do it over there, kind of thing.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
my
That's-
big
that's
question,
what I'm saying,
where's
it's
it gonna
death by
stop?
1,000 cuts.
And I understand
There's
some people
85
don't
million
like,
permutations of those combinations,
some people don't like cannabis, some people don't like drinking, some people don't like cigarettes. It's not my job to judge somebody and say, well, I don't like it, so you can't do it. If it's not affecting public health and public safety, I haven't seen anything that, I mean, alcohol kills a lot of people. I have yet, in my experiences, to hear of one case of an overdose on cannabis. Now, that's not to say there isn't other things involved, but I just am,
Well, I mean, it's the same as the laws regarding smoking, tobacco. As a former smoker, I found it egregious that I should have to leave a restaurant, whereas now, as a former smoker, I said, how in the hell did anybody ever put up with somebody smoking when they're spending $80 for a meal and all you can smell is, taste and smell is smoke? I said, I can't believe it was ever legal to do it, now. But you know what I mean, is there are laws regarding where you can smoke and where you can't. And we wouldn't have believed that possible 20 years ago, but there it is.
so where's the nexus? I mean, like I say, when we discussed the moratorium, I must have missed something because I don't recall directing staff to look into cannabinoids or whatever, however you pronounce it, and liquid and attaching it to the intoxicating liquor. I didn't get that out of the meeting. Now,
Oh, I missed it too, but
I agree what you said too, Bob. I figured it was done on the last meeting. That's how I took it. And now
and
this is coming back to us. who instructed who to do this?
I would like to see, if there's going to be ordinances on any of this, I would like to see the council be part of discussing and formulating what's coming up. I don't think it's staff's job, and I say that because people elect city council people. Well, you know that, you're a city councilman up in Cambridge. Because they want you to do what represents you. They don't do it to say, well, we want you to let staff come up with all this stuff, and then you just rubber stamp it and go home. I think city council should be a part of creating anything that comes up. And I think on a few other issues, we've tried to get that out, that if you're going to do this, then let us know ahead of time, and let us put in our suggestions, and then you mix it up, and then you got something. And
I take
here
your
it is.
point. I take your point, I do. I think it's a good point. It should be more collaborative, yeah. Well, at least we shouldn't be in a place where none of us can understand why this has come back up in this form or any other form, you know, because we just had that last vote. But it seems to me, for what my opinion's worth, is we should just table it for now until Eric's back, and in the meantime, we all can talk with each other about how to approach, because it's a new thing, you know, it's uncharted territory. It's, you know, so it's different. Tobacco doesn't get you high, but it's noxious. Alcohol destroys lives, and we all know it. It has millions and millions and millions of people have died as a result of alcohol, from being poisoned by it, being killed by it. I've known people who were killed by drunk drivers, 18 years old. I mean, you know, so I'm deaf about drunk driving. That's you want to get me worked up, that's the one that gets me worked up. Even when I drank, I didn't go out and drive drunk.
Well, I second the motion to table it.
Yeah. I think for now, that's probably what we gotta do.
I would discuss with doing that as well, and I think it's to get information to the council, and we'll decide if we want it on the agenda or not. Instead of just having staff do it, we'll decide if it's gonna be an issue.
Collaboratively, anyway, but
Yeah.
not
So we get a lot of
forced
information.
forced upon us.
Well,
yeah.
kind of like with Councilman Miller and Aaron discussing the outside storage containers. I mean, he brought it up, he's got ideas. The two get together, hash it out, see what they come up with.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I just think it's our job to do the discussion and to make the decisions.
Definitely. I agree.
It is. So we've got a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Yep.
To
you
table
did.
it, okay. All those in favor of tabling this matter for the time being, say
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, none heard.
So,
Thank you, Christina.
Of course.
on that subject, just one comment of, so there's the beverage aspect, and there's gonna be other aspects. For the next meeting, can you just have a list of what could be upcoming?
Sure.
That council will or should or have to deal with?
Of course.
So that, just so that council can be clear of what would be up and coming.
Like a brief memo we've put together for a lot of our cities. It's already been drafted. Like one of the things that's in it is, actually it's illegal to use medical cannabis products in public places. But it's legal to use non-medical cannabis in public places. So there's a lot of these weird nuances out there, that are why this is being obscurely brought to the city council attention. It's unique to Minnesota that they're putting these issues before councils to have to make a city by city basis, and we can provide what we've provided to other cities as far as all of the different things that are happening out there and the issues that they're seeing come before them from residents and business owners.
Have you guys dug into any research on Colorado? I
Yes.
mean, they've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, so Colorado has a very different approach. I actually used to work at the League of Minnesota Cities, and I did research on marijuana law back in 2019. And Colorado had an approach that was opt out, and actually no, opt in. So sales, use, that stuff was not legal in your city unless you opted into it. And then you had a lot more authority to get taxes. At this time, cities are not allowed to get additional tax revenue. That's all established at the state level. And then the public use, I believe, was regulated at a state level. But all of the different sales, licensing, the different types of products. And they didn't do what Minnesota did, which was, it's kind of backwards. So they've legalized it, but there's no legal sales. So Minnesota's the only one who's done it this way. Minnesota's the only way that has the type of local controls that are before you and not before you. And the goal is at the next legislative session, I personally have a list of matters that the legislature completely overlooked when it came to local control and clarity about what local governments are able to do that some of our cities are bringing to the League of Minnesota Cities. But there's just, Minnesota doesn't compare to California, Massachusetts, Illinois, anybody, District of Columbia. The delivery sales are all completely different. So we've put a lot of time and research into this just as a way to be able to, if you have any additional specific questions tonight,
What we need to know is the universe of permutations or combinations, however you want to say it.
Sure.
There's the form, there's where and where you can't use it, there's, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're all combinations and all that kind of stuff. And what we don't want is 85 different resolutions to cover every possibility and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. Certainly.
It sounds more and more like it should have been called, instead of the Cannabis Act, the Attorney Full Employment Act.
Oh my
is what
gosh.
what it
And I
sounds
never
like.
thought I'd be looking at cannabis regulation, and here am I, like, it's 320 pages. It's a very thick binder, and I have it practically memorized now because of the obscure questions that are coming before our councils and the types
I can
of
believe you.
resolutions.
I totally believe you.
So, and the League of
Okay.
Minnesota Cities in the meantime has really extensive frequently asked questions on their website. If you're curious into looking into any of those things before our kind of bullet points of the options that you all have comes before you at your next meeting.
Okay. All right, so we have tabled that matter for the time being. Thank you. And before we adjourn, anybody have anything they need to address?
The staff report?
I just have one item. The date for the dissolution of the Sunrise River WMO is coming up fairly quickly. I think it was set for September the 19th. I think there's some indication that.
Is that the one that,
Ham
which
Lincoln
is it, the
Memorial?
Upper Rum, or is it the Sunrise?
Sunrise.
It's the
River
Sunrise,
WMO.
and they had an issue with Ham Lake and
Yep.
all this business. Because
Yep.
I talked to Brian Markham earlier, and so I'm particularly interested in what you have to say about this.
I think the two attorneys would like to see, give another week or two to try to negotiate some things. Linwood is adamant that they will not support anything other than the new funding formula. Under the old formula, they would be paying quite a bit more.
Am I correct in believing that Ham Lake conceded the point of the unanimous vote? Because that's what I understood
yeah.
from Brian.
Yeah, they did. but
Again,
they-
I didn't call him, he called me,
But
but,
they did, but I don't think they had any choice in that matter because it's state statute that you can't require the unanimous vote. It has to be a majority.
so it's in the absence of a unanimous vote, it'll be a 10% increase in the budget, is that?
Well, what they said, they would recommend the cap be placed on a budget, so it couldn't increase by any more than 5%, 10%. I think 10% was the last discussion item. Ham Lake is still insistent on keeping the old funding formula, in which they pay less, and they want to split up, they want to change, I think, still the funding formula on the non-operating cost of the WMO. Everything in this, and I don't blame Ham Lake. If we were in their position, we'd probably be doing the same thing. But what they're wanting to do is pay less and everybody else pay more.
Well, who's got the most skin in the game?
Linwood. Linwood pays the most under any funding formula we have, mainly because their whole township is in the Sunrise River WMO. We're only about 40% in the Sunrise. Columbus is about half and half in the Sunrise and the Rice Creek watershed. And I think maybe that there's part of them that's probably maybe in the Coon Creek too. Ham Lake is in the Coon Creek, small portion in the Upper Rum and a small portion in the Sunrise. Now, granted, in the Upper Rum River WMO, they get absolutely, I mean, there's no benefit to them because there'll never be a project there because everything in that section of Ham Lake is wetlands. In the Sunrise, which their portion of Coon Lake is in there, it's still a small, very small area, but there are about 100 homes in Ham Lake that are on Coon Lake, and they get quite a bit of benefit. Any improvements to Coon Lake benefit both Ham Lake, East Bethel, and Columbus. So I think that's what the gist of the argument is.
Well, I don't want to put words in Mayor Kirkham's mouth, but he seemed a little surprised that it's still going on, and just personally, I would much rather reach a resolution than pay attorneys.
Absolutely.
You know, so I'm not, no offense, but, you know, that's a part of their job is to stir up conflict between people that they don't make any money if everybody just gets along, you know?
Well, and, you know, I don't think the attorneys stirred this conflict up.
No,
It was an
but anyway, whoever is stirring the pot, it seems like there ought to be a better way to handle this, and if it's a meeting, I think Ham Lake would be open to sitting down with you guys, and I'll get involved if that helps at all, and get Linwood and just say, look, come on, let's work this out, you know?
Well, you know, that's the process we've been going through for the last year, and Ham Lake is.
But it's not going anywhere,
No,
so.
we're essentially still at an impasse. And again, I understand Ham Lake's position, but, you know, there's 3 other
Well,
entities involved in this
I'll have a
too.
follow-up conversation with Mayor Kirkham, and he called me at the last minute, so I may have misunderstood something, but.
But hopefully we'll have a full detailed report to give you at our next meeting.
So I believe our next meeting is on Thursday, isn't it, Jack?
Yes.
So,
Our next meeting's on what?
Sunrise next meeting.
Oh, I thought you meant this meeting.
No, Sunrise next
It's
meeting.
news to me.
Thursday.
On this Thursday?
This Thursday, the
Oh, well,
14th, I believe.
Okay, yeah, if any update you can give us, just send us out an email
Yeah, will
and
do.
let us know what's up. Can I ask a couple questions? Were the residents near the Cambia Nexus site charged for the paving of 189th? And I think you went through this before, and I apologize for asking again, but I wonder if you could explain to me
They
how the cost, half the cost fell to residents or something.
They were not charged. The only, when you say residents, are you talking about just?
People in the adjacent area.
In the
yeah.
adjacent area, no.
Homeowners in the adjacent area.
When-
Or was it, there's gonna be a charge if they ever sell their
Yeah.
property?
That was only for those residents on the north side of 189th.
So right
which is
across the street and
One
to the
residential
east?
property and the church property.
Oh,
And they
okay.
were given a deferred assessment. And that assessment will not kick in until they either sell or develop the property.
And it's just the church property? That's the
The
only one?
church property and one residential
For the
property.
people right across the street?
The-
That one?
Yeah, it's right at the corner.
Not the neighborhood to the east a little
No,
bit?
it's the Taylor
that-
Street and
that-
189th.
Okay.
The ones across the street were
You
assessed
recall what
nothing.
the amounts were?
The total amount was the church was assessed 270, the Canby was assessed 270. I think the one individual homeowner's property was assessed like 60,000. That was for the water and the sewer and the street.
Oh.
And then the church was assessed the balance, which is about $210,000.
Hmm. Okay, thanks. I guess that's it. With that, if anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I got one more thing yet.
Oh,
Parks Commission, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Coon Lake Community Center. if you want to be a part of walking around the park with the Park Commission and ask any questions or any concerns, that'd be the time to do it. It's going to be outside at 6 o'clock.
Very good. I'm gonna be there.
I'll be there.
Good. Well, we won't be able to look at each other or talk to each other, so. Open meeting laws, yeah. I've never seen you before. Anything else before we adjourn? Before 10 o'clock tonight. Hot dog.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Hot dog. By next meeting, we'll be down to 50 minutes.
Thank you.
Really speak well and project yourself.
Thank you. It's always
It's easy
nervous.
to do when you know what you're talking about, ain't it?
Yeah.